Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. Alex, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. We got week 1 of the NFL season already out of the way. We're now about to go in the third week of college football season. We got hockey coming up on deck within the next couple of weeks, basketball within the next month and a half. So everything's in full swing now. So it's hard to get a lot of sleep from here on out, but it's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement.
You're like Donald Trump. You can run on like 4 hours of sleep or less, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's if I get 4 hours of sleep, I'm good. I usually go, but yeah, 3 to 5 hour range. Anything more than that would be a gift. So yeah.
Yeah. Week 1 of the NFL, we didn't get to do a show pre week 1.
Yep.
But it was a kind of a weird week 1. You're looking at like your favorites, Seahawks lose again against the Rams week 1, just like last year. Denver, Baltimore was just, I guess if you love defense, that was a great game.
Yeah.
If you don't like offense, you love that game. Was there any teams that you were going into this season that you're like, okay, I'm going to love betting with this team that you kind of jumped off the bandwagon with after week 1?
I think the only team I'd say that really disappointed me were the Minnesota Vikings. For that, anybody watched that game last night? That was just an atrocious game to watch, whether you bet it or not. It was just, the fact that it had the late time start, and it was just sloppy on both sides. But the Vikings really, I don't understand a lot of what they were doing as far as their play calling goes. They were being real conservative. It was Adrian Peterson's first game back, but they didn't even give him, a carry in their first offensive drive. Teddy Bridgewater still has a lot of things to work out. He was underthrowing guys severely. He was overthrowing guys. He's got some timing issues to work on. And it wasn't as if the Niners were just rushing him to death. It was just, they would put a little bit of pressure on him, and the defensive backs were kind of jamming up receivers just enough to disrupt his timing. So I thought we would see more of a balanced offensive attack from Minnesota. They did well defensively for the most part. The only person they couldn't stop on the field was Carlos Hyde, who ended up getting 2 touchdowns that sealed the game. But Minnesota is going to struggle a little bit offensively. And I thought there would be a better team on offense, and I thought it'd be a team to actually, get some value with early, but I think that might not be the case now.
The Vikings kind of looked shocked that the second Monday night game this year was not Raiders-Chargers, which it always seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
Opening week. They looked a little shell-shocked by that. And it makes me also wish that I had placed a bet on Adrian Peterson's rushing numbers. It was like, I think it was, I can't remember what it was, the prop bet preseason. It was somewhere in the 700 range. Makes me wish I would have taken the under on that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that worries me about that.
It might pick up, but I just, he doesn't, it doesn't look like he's completely in their plans of things to do this year.
That's true, but like you said, when you talk about a guy who has the running talent of an Adrian Peterson, it's hard to kind of read what could happen next, because he's a guy who could go out, he could come out next week and get 150 yards on the ground like it's nothing. So you have to really kind of, you look through and see who they're playing. They're playing a lot of, and they'll have some tougher defenses they'll face later on in the year. Like I said, since they played the 49ers, they have to play the rest of the NFC West. So that means they'll be going up against Seattle. They'll be going up against the Rams. They'll be going up against Arizona. All three have very good defenses. But they play a lot of teams they could run the ball against too. Detroit, is missing a couple of key pieces on defense from last year. They have to play the Bears. Bears' run defense is still just almost as bad as it was last year. So there will be some spots where Adrian Peterson will be able to get some, have some breakout games. It's just that, we won't see him, try and go for 2,000 yards this year. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him near the 1,000-yard mark by season's end.
Was there anybody that you have fallen in love with after week one?
Yeah, well, I guess I couldn't really say after week one. I kind of really liked them right out of the gate. But the Atlanta Falcons, we talked about it on the show earlier about how I feel that, they have improved defensively. Everyone stays healthy on offense. There really isn't a team, you look at the NFC, they're right up there, the cream of the crop offensively. They're just as talented now, especially if you look at the Packers losing Jordy Nelson. I would say Atlanta right now has the upper hand as far as best offense in that conference. So you look at Atlanta and how they did against the Eagles, who were supposed to be a really good team, and the Eagles will be fine, but they have a lot of. I feel like it's caught up with them now. We talked about it in the preseason episodes about how the Eagles were running over everybody because all these teams said, we're not going to bother to, game plan against their offense. We've got other things to work on. We're not going to try and just sit down and focus on film for the Eagles, in preseason. So their numbers are so inflated. So everybody's, falling in love with the Eagles thinking, okay, they're going to blow everybody out, score 50 points a game in the regular season. Well, it's a little different because now there's film and teams are game planning for teams in the regular season. So you see a solid defense like Atlanta, figure out how, they match the tempo very well, which you won't see a lot of defenses do that when they are playing the Eagles. But they've matched up well as far as schemes go, and that's why they were able to pull out that big win. But their offense is just tremendous. Matt Ryan, if you want to look for a dark horse to be the MVP in this league, I would say Matt Ryan would be a solid candidate. Julio Jones looks tremendous. He's a great player. The only caveat with him is that he doesn't stay healthy all the time. So, but if he can stay healthy for a full season, him and Matt Ryan, and they've got a solid core of backs and running backs there too. That team could be very dangerous come November and December.
With the Eagles though, they're always gonna. I think with their first half, they were terrible in the first half. They weren't much better in the second half, but they always make that comeback in the second half. That's been their MO with Chip Kelly. Is they have a rough first half, and then it's like the defense gets a little tired, and they cut. They run off 14 points unanswered or something like that. Yeah. If it hadn't been for a few Sam Bradford picks, they might win that game. They probably win that game. And, I just feel with that team, the first half, definitely, in my opinion, stay away from first half or take whoever they're playing against in the first half. That would be my advice. Whatever the line is, I would take whoever they're playing against because it's just the history under Chip Kelly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely a better second half team than the first half team, and that's you have to give that credit to Chip Kelly. I mean, he's one of those solid coaches who can make all of the necessary corrections at halftime. So it's not so much that they're just a completely lethargic team, in the first half, but like you said, it's more of a read and react setup with the Eagles because of running. When you're running that up tempo, high octane style of offense, you tend to make mistakes here and there. Tend to have a lot of false starts. A lot of offsides. A lot of different things can go wrong early because you're moving at such a high speed. But once you settle in, get used to the timing, get used to reading how your defense is, and the opposition's reacting, then you can make those necessary adjustments, and then they can start moving at the pace they want and getting everything clicking on all cylinders in the second half.
Okay. College football, before we get into the early lines for NFL for week 2, college football, my worst pick of the year going into the season that I was a stone cold lead pipe lock. Kansas to win more than a game and a half That's not going to happen. That is just
Yeah.
not going to happen. Already 0-2 in 2 games. Well, the Memphis game, they played well in the first half, but then losing to South Dakota State, I thought that was their one chance, and then Iowa State. No, they're probably going to go winless. I gotta come clean. That was a terrible pick.
Well, South Dakota State had, they had lost a few pieces on both sides of the ball. They're one of the better teams in 1AA, but they have a very solid coaching scheme. They're one of those ground and pound, old school kind of football teams, and that was the thing. They just ran all over Kansas in that game. I actually took South Dakota State. They put up the added game lines about 2 hours before kickoff on Saturdays, and I went and got South Dakota State plus 3.5, and that game should have been, the score was completely misleading. It's 41-38, but South Dakota State was running away with this game. They were up, it was 24-3 at one point early in that contest. So Kansas had to actually come back to even get it to within 3, and it was a clock blunder that screwed up their chance of going for a Hail Mary at the end and possibly win it. And then you look at them this past week against Memphis. Memphis is a really good football team. I'll talk a little bit more about Memphis later on in the show, but they've got a super dynamic offense. There was no way Kansas was gonna ever hang around with Memphis for even a half, let alone a full game. So you look now with Rutgers coming in, or they're traveling out to New Jersey. So pretty bad Rutgers team. So maybe they could find a way to possibly get a win here, but. As soon as after that game, you look at the rest of the schedule, it's all, Big 12 opponents. So you might be stuck at 1, and you might miss that game by the hook there with that 1.5 play.
Did our teams like Louisville or Arkansas, those weren't teams I looked at going into the season to have big years or like good years, but they've struggled early on, and Arkansas, I just don't like their offense, and in the SEC, I don't like that their style, and I just don't see it. I still think it's a year away from maybe working in the West. Do either one of those teams? Have you soured on them, or were you ever really that high on either one of them?
No, as far as just from a straight up wins and loss perspective, I wasn't high on either one of those two teams. It's funny you mentioned that with the offense for Arkansas. Arkansas, Brett Bielema came down there and he basically just turned Arkansas into a Big Ten team. They're massive on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Their offensive linemen, I think their average size like 6'5", like 360 something. So. They've got these giant, walls on offensive and defensive lines. They've got some fast running backs, some taller receivers, not really the fastest receivers, but they're, good height guys you can trust with a jump ball in the corner of the end zone. Some pretty fast defensive backs. But, yeah, nothing really flashy. I was betting them over the total in their last couple of games just because they were simply, they had the advantage in the trenches against, you look at Texas El Paso, always undersized program on the offensive line and defensive line. Toledo, that was incredible how they were able to go into Little Rock and pull off that upset, especially without their leading rusher in Kareem Hunt. So, like I said, they're going to struggle a bit in the SEC. Like I said, they're probably about a year or so away from making a real serious run in that conference. But I just think that style, it only works against, lesser opponents. They kind of even out and they plateau out against some of the upper echelon teams that they'll have to face being in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Are there early week 3 lines in college football? Any that you like right now?
I just fired away on. I got 4 plays up now for this week that people can grab at any of my various websites, sportsmemo.com or kellyinvegas.com. But there was a lot of games that I had still have circled. I'm kind of waiting for some information. There's a couple of lines that aren't up yet because of some injury issues. You look at that Florida Atlantic and Buffalo game, for example. Florida Atlantic was a play I had last week when they were at home hosting University of Miami. It was a Friday night TV game, and they were dominating they were actually dominating Miami early in that ball game, and then thunder and lightning hit the area. They had to cancel, postpone the game. And I really don't like how the NCAA handles these lightning delays. The rule is the game has to be delayed 20 to 25 minutes after the last lightning strike that is visible from the area. Well, anybody who's even, paid mild attention to weather in their lifetime knows that lightning strikes can come at any moment and they come in packs. So, you could have a game, a situation where 20 minutes has passed, and all of a sudden one lightning strike. Well, now it's another 25 minutes. So the clock kept restarting. What should have been a 30-minute, 45-minute top delay ended up being well over an hour. And it threw off Florida Atlantic's momentum. They had 5 turnovers in the game. They ended up losing their starting quarterback and starting running back out to injury. Miami runs away with the game and covers the number easily. So there's some tough spots, but I think I would like to see Florida Atlantic come back in that game. I'm sure there'll be a small favorite over Buffalo. And I think it's a good bounce back spot for them. So that's something I have circled, without a number. I'm guessing the number, I would set it as at least a 5-point favorite against a team like Buffalo.
A couple of lines, actually really quick on that lightning strike in the area stuff. In high school baseball, coaching it's 30-minute delay. And those umpires are just looking to get a quick check. And so they're always looking like, what if we see another one, we're going to cancel this game. So it's like, I know it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
But also the odds of getting struck by lightning, I'll take my chances on that with my team. Some, a couple of lines out there that, that I liked in college football coming out this week. Number 2, Alabama. Number 15, Ole Miss. Alabama favored by 7. I think Ole Miss covers that. I just don't. I think that even though it's at Alabama, Ole Miss has a new quarterback. I'm not huge on Alabama's offense. They looked good against Wisconsin, but it was Wisconsin. I like Ole Miss to cover this, and I think. I think it'll be kind of a grinded out type of game. I think it's a 3 or 4 point win for Alabama, in my opinion.
Well, it's kind of it's an interesting spot for Ole Miss in this game because you look at, everybody's kind of discrediting their last two games. They put up 76 points against Tennessee Martin, a lowly 1AA team. Then they come back and host Fresno State, who's rebuilding. They put up 73 points on them. So everybody's kind of saying, okay, well, they got their tune-up games out of the way, but can they really hang with some tough competition in Alabama? And it's kind of it's not really so much of a sandwich spot, obviously, because it starts as the first of, 3 sets of conference battles. So it is a solid test. But, Alabama always seems to get really fired up for conference games. And so I see where this number lies at 7. And it's a game I wouldn't play personally. But, yeah, if I were to look at this, I wouldn't be too gun-shy to take the 7 points here. I think Ole Miss can hang around. I think their offense is legit despite playing inferior opponents the last 2 weeks. So I think Ole Miss could definitely hang around with that 6.5, 7 point range.
One that caught my eye that, Penn State at home, favored by 8.5 over Rutgers. I think they blow out Rutgers, and I would definitely take Penn State in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Penn State's had issues early, especially that game against Temple to open the year. This is a big game for both schools, but more so for Penn State and most notably James Franklin. He's made it a point to when he came into that Penn State program, he says that he wanted to get the recruiting wagon bolstered up a little bit more out there, and so one of his hot spots is in that New Jersey South Philly range. So he always makes it a point to really go in and play Rutgers tough. This is a big recruiting tool for him. So, you have a really flat Rutgers team going into Beaver Stadium. That's a real tough spot for them. So yeah, Penn State. It's a bit steep at 10. Penn State has some offensive issues. Hackenberg can go from looking like a top draft pick to complete bust in a matter of one or two series. So 10's a little steep for me, but if I had to play this game either way, I definitely would lean toward the Nittany Lions.
Were there any lines this week that you are going to, have no interest in, or that you're going to completely stay away from?
Yeah, this Wake Forest Army game, you're looking at it. It opened. Wake Forest was 3-point.
Stay away from watching it as well.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, it's gone up to 5, which it makes sense. Army's a really bad team. They opened up the year losing to Fordham. Fordham was one AA team that was only bringing back 3 players on offense and 1 player on defense. And this game was an absolute shootout. That was actually an entertaining game to watch. I didn't have any money on it, but Fordham pulled out the big upset over Army. So, but Wake Forest isn't that great of a team. They blew a game they should have won against last week against Syracuse. Syracuse was missing their top quarterback for the rest of the year, so they really struggled in the second half of that contest. So, 2 really bad teams here. Definitely not going to take the points with Army anytime soon. Definitely not going to lay nearly a touchdown with Wake Forest. So that's a game just completely stay away from. Like I said, don't watch it. Don't bet it. Just there's plenty of other good games that'll be on Saturday.
Another game that right now the line is about 37. SMU versus TCU. Stay away from a line that high, or would you bet TCU in this situation with how bad SMU is?
This is one of those games I would probably do kind of like how I was doing early last year. I knew how bad SMU was going to be last year, especially when June Jones just went and completely, he jumped ship after a couple of games. He was done and kind of let the dumpster fire that was the Mustangs to smolder all year. So this is a game I would probably, if I had to play it at any point, I would look at playing over the total. Open from 63.5 to 67. We know TCU can pretty much name their score against most of the inferior opponents in this country, SMU being one of them. This being an in-state battle, TCU needs to, from here on out, any team they can put big numbers, big points on for style points as far as when we get later in the year with the polls and looking for trying to make it into the playoff. So I think they're going to take advantage of these spots and really try and blow some teams out. So I wouldn't be shocked. 38, they should cover that, but I feel a little bit more comfortable sometimes in these spots playing the over, because all you need is a touchdown or 2 from SMU, and then TCU goes up and they put up 5 or 6 touchdowns. Well, now you've already hit the number. So I'm not going to play it, but if anything, I would play in these blowout spots like this. I like looking at the over in some spots.
Well, let's get into some NFL early lines. Actually, one team that I am kind of that we were talking about, teams that we were kind of liking early on in the show. One of mine would have to be the Rams. I'm starting to buy it. If it wasn't for Jeff Fisher, I would be all about the Rams 100%. But I'm starting to like. I like their defense, so I think they could. You could win some unders with this team. That's one team I like. Where do you stand with the Rams?
I do like the Rams. It's unfortunate that they had these running back issues with Trey Mason was inactive last week. We still don't really know where everything stands with Todd Gurley. So I thought that those two guys implementing the run game along with the addition of Nick Foles would help kind of give a little more balance to this team, so where they wouldn't be so defensive heavy. I thought they would at least have an average enough offense. You look at the spot here this week against they got the Redskins coming in. They're going out to DC. Washington's just a really bad team. I played against them last week. I had Miami laying the 3.5, 4 points. A game I really shouldn't have won, to be honest. Miami, looked lethargic, and they had some issues in the red zone in that game, but it was a punt return for a touchdown that brought them back and gave them the backdoor cover of sorts. But the Redskins have just a world of issues going on. Obviously the quarterback thing with RG3 and Kirk Cousins, and neither one of them are starting quarterback material in this league as far as I'm concerned as of now. So both of them, whoever stars in this game, or if it's Colt McCoy, it wouldn't matter. Any of the three quarterbacks the Redskins have on their roster would struggle against a defense like St. Louis. So this might be a good spot to lay you're going to lay some juice with the 3. You might want to look for a 3.5 and play it at the 11 to 10. Or this might go up to 4. I still would look at it more in that range. But St. Louis they'll hang in there because of their defense. I still kind of see them possibly being on the outside looking in as far as playoff contenders go. I think the Arizona is a better team. Obviously, Seattle's the better team, and the Niners haven't completely fallen off yet. We'll see how they keep doing moving forward. But St. Louis, if the only way they can make a splash as far as becoming a real playoff contender is if they can get that running game going again with their backs that are injured.
Some early lines coming out. What has caught your eye so far as far as lines so far on Tuesday?
Looking at the and this is one of the best bets. I start talking about it now, but the Arizona Cardinals coming into Chicago, they're 1.5, 2 point favorite. They've got a tremendous defense. They looked very sharp against New Orleans. And they got a good offense. Carson Palmer's been doing well. The Bears, they had a chance to beat Green Bay. And, of course, it was up to Jay Cutler making a mistake once again when it mattered in the red zone. He throws a pick to Clay Matthews. Looks like he didn't even see where Clay Matthews was on the field before he let that ball go from his hands. So you add that in with Chicago had a ton of issues on defense. They were just letting Aaron Rodgers get away with murder. He was running the ball. He was throwing the ball. So if he's going to, Arizona, the only caveat with Arizona is that they have a pretty weak offensive line. But we didn't see a whole lot of blitzing or anything crazy from the Bears defensively. So I don't think that'll be much of an issue. I don't see how any of the Bears secondary members are going to stop Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown. So I think Arizona laying the 2 points, pretty good spots too. There's also a couple of trends that back that. Arizona has covered their last 7 road openers, and the Bears are just 1-7 their last 8 as home underdogs. So when the line is against them in their Soldier Field, it's for a reason. So Arizona laying up, I'd like it up to 3 in that game this week.
Well, Cutler actually didn't look terrible, other than the Clay Matthews interception, and that was a big part of the game. But he didn't look god awful like everybody was expecting going into this year. I think the Bears might actually be, not a halfway bad team to, not only to play some bets on. I don't. I know it's early, but I think with him and Alshon Jeffrey, I think that they could be a fun team to bet on.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely be catching some value with the Bears later on in the year. They've got a really tough schedule. After this game, they got to go play Seattle. So there will be some value spots with the Bears. I'd say probably around mid-October toward the end of the season, you'll be able to find a few spots where you'll be catching some solid points with the defensive offense. And I agree, Cutler didn't look as terrible as he has in previous outings, especially against Green Bay. But he's still missing that killer instinct where you're driving down the field and you got a legitimate shot to win this ball game at home, and he goes and makes a giant blunder like this. There's also some issues. The offensive line, there's always been offensive line issues with the Bears since Cutler's been part of the team. There was a fumble that was thankfully called down. His knee hit the ground before the ball left his hands. But there's just little miscues here and there that seem to mount up at the wrong time for him. And so those are the things you have to really kind of watch out for with the Bears.
One thing that did catch my eye was a Giants being favored by 2 over Atlanta. And the over/under at 51. I mean, that seems high, and it's odd to me, even at home, the Giants to be favored over Atlanta. I would actually take Atlanta in this one.
Well, you know what?
And take the under.
The way I'll tell you this. I understand why the total is set at 50.5, 51. I really understand why the Giants are favored in this game too. They're both public overreactions. Everybody joked around about how yesterday was overreaction Monday, and I think this number is a bit of an overreaction on both ends. But the reasons why make sense. You look at the Giants, the huge blunder they had late in that ball game. Everybody's criticizing Eli Manning now. So this, they're coming home, they're going to be playing pissed off. Okay, they're going to really want to try and go after the Falcons. Well, you look at this Atlanta team, like as we mentioned earlier, this team is really solid on both sides of the ball, but especially on offense. So I wouldn't be too. I would actually look at possibly playing this game over the total. I could see this going. We're going to see a lot of passing in this game, a lot of ball movement through the air. Now, as far as that spread number goes, I know there is a trend that suggests that teams that win on the Monday night openers don't tend to cover at home, on the road in the next ball game. So right. I would guess that would be more of the reason why the Giants are favored. But if I had to play this game with the spread, I would definitely take 2. Some spots you get 2.5 points with the Atlanta Falcons. But no, that total is about right. And I wouldn't be shocked to see that number go up a little bit. So anybody who would want to jump on that over, you might want to grab it now at 51 before it gets to be somewhere around 53 and a half at close.
Another line that caught my eye: New Orleans favored by 9.5 over Tampa Bay. I understand how bad Jameis Winston was last week. Is that, big line, kind of a close to 10-point line? Do you see that climbing, dropping down at all, or would you grab it now or just stay away completely?
Well, so you said, it's 10 is one of the higher key numbers in the NFL. So it's going to bounce around between 9, could go all the way up to about 11. I see an 11.5 in a couple of shops. So, I'm not going to touch this game, but I understand where the line is. Once again, a bit of an overreaction with how bad Tampa looked week 1 against Tennessee. The thing is that the Buccaneers don't really have much of an offense in the red zone. Jameis Winston did not look good. The fact that Mike Evans is still out with a hamstring injury, he could play in this game, but he's a big target, especially in the red zone. So it's going to be rough. New Orleans, like I said, they played up against a really good defense last week, and their loss against the Arizona Cardinals. So they're going to be trying to come out and looking for a big win. And New Orleans has played them well in the last couple of years. So I wouldn't lay the 10.5. I wouldn't touch this game with New Orleans. I don't trust them to cover that high of a number. But I'm definitely not going to back the Buccaneers getting the points here at home.
Were there any games this week so far that didn't match your numbers at all?
Yeah, the Houston-Carolina game. I understand that, Houston's having some issues with quarterback play. They pulled Hoyer and Ryan Mallett came in, and they made a bit of a comeback, but they still ended up losing to Kansas City. But I found it a little odd that they were 3-point underdogs to Carolina. Carolina's got a plethora of issues. They're already missing Kelvin Benjamin. Pretty anemic offensive attack. Now Luke Kulicki is out with a concussion. They've got a couple other banged up people on the defensive unit as well too. So that was a game that didn't match up with my numbers. Another game that I'm having a bit of a discrepancy with is the Tennessee Cleveland line. opened at Cleveland as a 4-point favorite, was all the way to where now Tennessee's a 1-point favorite. Some pick 'em in some spots. I get where Cleveland, once again, quarterback issue. You have McCown got absolutely annihilated in that play. Johnny Manziel had to come in and finish the game. I'm assuming Manziel will be starting in this contest. Going up against Mariota, Tennessee, like I said, had a really good game against Tampa Bay. Cleveland's a little bit better of a defensive team, in my opinion, than the Buccaneers. So I think we'll see Mariota get tested a little bit in this contest. So I definitely didn't like Cleveland laying 4 points, but at a pick'em spot, I wouldn't be too scared to take a shot with the Browns maybe in this home game.
Even with Manziel starting, I mean, he looks. He looks scared. He kind of looks scared at times.
He does, but I mean, the thing is, we're talking about two of the bottom feeders in the AFC. I'm not high on Tennessee like a lot of people were saying. Okay, this Tennessee team, they've got the makings of being a playoff contender. I don't see that this year. If everything stays well and stays the course, sure, they could be right in the middle of things next season perhaps, but I think they still got some things to work out. And like I said, we're going to see, how things are going to fare for Mariota going up against a better defense.
One line that I do like, and I'm going to take the Raiders, actually. Baltimore favored by 7 against the Raiders in Oakland. Baltimore, I don't think, their offense is going to look like it did this week. And, I guess Oakland, if they're minus Derek Carr, it could, you know what? I'm backing off of that. I'm going to Baltimore. That's I can't talk myself into it, and I can't talk myself into the Raiders winning 7 games this year anymore. That's not going to happen either.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That Derek Carr injury is really what's going to be the death blow to the Raiders this year. They looked like they had some promising things going for them, but they were just completely flat dead in that game last week with Cincinnati. Baltimore, I think Baltimore's offense will wake up in this game as opposed to where they were with that snooze fest last week against Denver. 7's about the right price. I have that's where my numbers would suggest. It's always tough though. You have an East Coast team going out west, so it's something I wouldn't really play this game. But yeah, I would have to lean more with Baltimore. I'm only seeing a few numbers that are out because of the question of who's going to start for Oakland at quarterback. So you won't see a steady number in this game until around maybe Thursday or Friday anyway. So that's a game I just wouldn't even look at. I'd cross it off.
All righty, let's get into some best bets this week. Let's go. We'll go good bet, better bet, and then our best bet. What's your good bet for this week?
Well, my good bet, I talked about it earlier in the NFL on Sunday. Arizona Cardinals, like I said, covered their last 7 openers on the road. Bears gone 1-7 as a home underdog going back to 2012. Arizona's they have a better defense, tremendous talent on offense, and like I said, the Bears just seem to struggle at home, and they couldn't put away their rival who played flat for most of the first half. I can't imagine how they're going to do against an Arizona team that's really firing on all cylinders right now. So I'm laying the 2 points with the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday.
My good bet is taking Indianapolis at home. They're favored by 7 right now. I'm going to take them to cover that. Reasoning, Chuck Pagano's job is rumored to be on the line right now. They didn't look good last week. I think they respond, whether if Gore plays or not. I don't think Gore makes that big of a difference in their offense. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think, Andrew Luck facing Ryan Fitzpatrick, the battle of Civil War generals again. I like the Colts to win this game and win big on Monday night.
Well, you know what, too? That's a good spot. Indianapolis 13-1-1 against the spread, coming off of a straight up loss. So that's a really good spot. I could see where the Colts will come out pissed off at home on a Monday night. That would be a good spot to lay the chalk with the Colts, in my opinion. I agree with that play.
Better bet for this week.
My better bet for this week is a game that you probably won't find on your television lineup. It's Texas El Paso against New Mexico State, the Battle of I-10. The Miners have won 6 straight games in this series, but now they lost their top running back in Aaron Jones. So that might hinder them a little bit offensively. They do have some solid key pieces at wide out. The fact is both of these teams don't know how to play defense worth a damn. Texas El Paso giving up tons of yards early against in their 2 contests with Arkansas and Texas Tech. New Mexico State was in a shootout last week with Georgia State. So I'm thinking this game's going to fly over the total of 65 points. That's my better bet.
My better bet will be Minnesota, Detroit, over under set at 43.5 right now. I'm going to take the over. I think Detroit puts a lot of points on the board in this one. Minnesota, I think, comes out of its shell a little bit. I think it goes over. That's my better bet for week 2 in the NFL. Now, what's your best bet?
My best bet, I'm going back to college on Saturday. I talked about them earlier, the Memphis Tigers. They've got just an incredible high-octane offense. Paxton Lynch is their quarterback, big 6'6" kid. He's somebody we'll definitely see at least get a shot in the NFL next August. He might get drafted. I'm not exactly sure where the draft pundits kind of have him in the rankings, but he's very good. He's got a solid body, solid size. They've got he's got a plethora of weapons. Last game they played when they beat Kansas, he found 11 different targets open. So he's, a lot of very diversified attack offensively. They're playing a Bowling Green team that has a very good offense as well, but they don't have a lot of guys coming back on defense. There's only 4 returning starters on defense. Memphis has a fairly average defense that could contain the Falcons' offense. And you look at the Tigers; they've covered 9 of their last 11 non-conference games. So I'm going to lay the 3 points. This is a personal play, and I also gave this out to my paying clients. So I'm going with the Memphis Tigers laying the 3 points on Saturday.
My best bet will be New England over Buffalo. Right now the line is at favoring New England by 1. I'm going to take New England to win that, because whether the line grows or not, because it's only Tuesday. Rex Ryan has 5 more days to say something stupid about Peyton Manning. I know this is in Buffalo. Buffalo looked really good, and I like them. However, I see him saying something stupid that gets Brady and Belichick going before this weekend, and I think that the Patriots wind up winning this game.
Yeah, this is one of those games too. I find, like we mentioned with a couple other games, and it's overreaction. I mean, yeah, Buffalo looked tremendous in shutting down Indianapolis last week, but New England they're still New England. Okay, and I get that, yeah, they've lost some pieces on defense. They have some troubles with their offensive line, but New England they always find ways to win division games. And so I don't get why this game even came close to a pick'em. There's a lot of value here getting at 1. I would think this line would get bet up heavily by the public and move probably close somewhere around 3, maybe 3.5. So yeah, this is a good time to jump in with the Patriots right now, only laying a point or maybe finding some pick'em spots depending on where you shop around.
Well, Alex, before we get out of here on the box seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at AXSmithSports. Like I said, I'm only getting about 3 to 4 hours of sleep, so you can always find me chatting with people and talking about different things on Twitter. You can find me on SportsMemo.com We got some great sale packages up now with the NFL wrapping up the month of September. You can find me at KellyInVegas.com, VegasInsider.com, ParkolaSports.com, Sports Watch Monitor now. All those sites will be getting ready now because hockey's starting in about 2 weeks. I'm going to have my NHL season win totals report. That'll be up in about, I'd say, 10 days or so. I've just started kind of drafting everything out there. So if you're looking for, someone to get some winning hockey players from, feel free to give me a ring or on Twitter or any of the various websites I'm on, and get on board now and take advantage of the early bird sales. So, Bob, who do you have going up on your show this week?
Well, Sunday, I have not put together a guest list for Sunday. I do have an interview that I did with Samaki Walker that will air preseason basketball. We did a little preview, talked a little Shaq, Kobe feud, what was all in store there. So that'll be coming out closer to NBA season. And then, also Sunday we'll probably be talking a lot of NFL. Probably going to have Nick Peterson on from Pop Culture Crunch, talk some fall movies, talk some winter movies that are coming out. So a pretty busy season of entertainment and NFL coming up this Sunday on the Bob Sullivan Show. Also, you can find me on Thursday on the Johnny Bobo Show. I will be making my return there at
nice, all right.
9 Central. So we'll be seeing you there. And is there anything else before we get out of here, Alex, and set the table up for Holden 1005 podcast?
Well, you mentioned fall movies. I know one movie. I'm actually gonna play hooky from work on Friday to go see this new Johnny Depp movie, Black Mass. This thing looks amazing. So hopefully maybe you guys will be talking about that. But I'll be first in line on Friday morning to see that. So maybe we could talk about that next week, and I can give my movie review on that one. So
your movie critique, I'm surprised Johnny Depp is not in costume or some kind of pirate outfit. That seems to be his MO for every single movie he's ever been in. Pretty much.
I'm hoping that this might be the movie to really kind of get him some accolades as far as awards go. Maybe this could break his Oscar streak. So
yeah, I hope so. So that will do it for the box seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. Coming up is the Hold 1005 podcast with Robbie and Brandy, and we'll see you next week.